Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 97 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, writer, actor, and director, Mr. Kyle Fine.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I know I usually do something funny for part of my intro, but I kind of want to have a serious conversation. And I'm sorry to spring this on you guys. I understand if this gets cut, but sometimes I really worry about your commitment to sparkle motion. So I think we need to have a discussion about that. I think it's a big opportunity for us. So, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, but keep that on the back burner.
All right, can we do it after the show? We can discuss that. Is that all right?
I suppose. Yeah, I suppose.
Okay. All right.
This is all part of some giant conspiracy, I'm sure, but...
Okay. Second, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Mr. Timothy Haggis.
I had a sparkle motion joke, but it was stolen. It was just here. And I was gonna tell you, do not question my commitment to sparkle motion, but the wind is suddenly out of my sails.
Well done, Kyle.
Thank you.
Third, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Mr. Harold Roland.
I can't follow that up. I just can't. I was trying to think of something with fear and controlling my fear, but I'm afraid that I just can't follow that up.
All right. Fourth, fear is the mind killer. It's a wrong movie, but
you gotta move it down the line.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Ink Studios, Mr. Andrew Zumwalt.
So I think after we're all done, I'm gonna invite all of our listeners. We're gonna invite the whole cast here, and we're all gonna go down to Charlie's and we're gonna have a drink. So I'm buying.
All right. Well, if you're buying, I'm going to Charlie's.
I'm in.
Would you like to come over for dinner tomorrow night?
Yes. What time?
All right. Let's go ahead and poke the monkey, find out what we're talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, imaginary rabbits and slightly taller imaginary rabbits, welcome to the main event! Tonight, we reach across time and space to bring together two of the most unlikely opponents to find out who is the real deal and who is the fluffy stuff of fairy tale. In the first corner, from 1950, written by Mary Chase, directed by Henry Koster, starring Jimmy Stewart, Josephine Hall, and Victoria Horn. It's Harvey! In the second quarter, from 2001, written and directed by Richard Kelly, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Patrick Swayze, and Mary McDonnell. Donnie Darko!
Okay, well, starting out with both of these films, I'd never seen Harvey at all. I can't believe it's taken me this long to see it. And I'd seen Donnie Darko once before, and I hated it. And I actually kind of enjoyed myself this time around, I think, because I was trying to give it a second chance, and I found a lot of the stuff I believe I was missing the first go around. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to think. So let's start it off with our first round, which is writing.
This has been on the calendar for a few months now, and I've been looking forward to this one because it's always fun, I think, when we're doing this to find two movies that you seem very, very loosely connected. Sometimes it's just an actor connected or a director. But I really think there are only two imaginary 6-foot bunny movies in the world. And sitting down to watch both of these, I was surprised at how much overlap there actually was. And so both of them have a lot to say about mental illness and prescription drugs to treat that mental illness. They both touch on their different ways on time travel, which totally I fell out of my chair watching Harvey when that part came up. But in terms of the story, I feel Harvey seems to kind of go a long way to get its point across in terms of, who's really the crazy one here. Whereas Donnie Darko, like Mike, I was in the same situation as Mike. I saw Donnie Darko maybe 3 or 4 times in the early 2000s, and I've never seen Harvey, despite the fact that it's my oldest son's name. And so we all sat down to watch it, and I was amazed at how much I liked Harvey. But what struck me even more is that Donnie Darko actually is aged pretty well. I'm not sure, and we can talk about it when it goes on, but the story is really tight. And it's a very complex, time travel philosophy based movie. And there's a lot to dig into on it. It's got a lot of depth, and it really seems like Richard Kelly, just kind of went over it with a fine tooth comb and looked for any huge plot holes and that kind of thing. Because it's such a solid story. Harvey, on the other hand, I think has really great dialogue. And I mean, I honestly feel like these two movies are pretty evenly matched. But in writing, I feel like Donnie Darko kind of has the edge just because it just seems so well polished. Yeah,
well, with Harvey, I mean, you mentioned the dialogue, and some of the dialogue is actually really very interesting, and funny and charming, but it also it kind of in a way gave away its connection to the stage play. Some of it seemed like it was a play adapted to a movie to me. The way they. Some of the dialogue was kind of describing what was happening. They were doing stuff, I don't know, like the daughter goes to the window and sees the guests arriving, and she's describing to us what's happening instead of us looking out the window with her and seeing them get out of the car and that kind of thing. So, I liked the dialogue, but it did kind of feel a little bit stage-like. And I agree. I feel like there's a certain complexity and depth to Donnie Darko. But I don't know that I went through it with a super fine-toothed comb and looked for any kind of plot holes. I was just trying to wrap my mind around it and try to understand what happened here. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Wow, Tom, I got to tell you, if I stole your thunder with my intro, you stole my thunder with your analysis, because that's really close to what I thought about these movies too. I like Mike, and I've never seen Harvey before. I saw Donnie Darko, probably when I was in my teenage years, and hated it. Felt like I just didn't like it. But now after rewatching it, I think it's because maybe I didn't get it or didn't get enough from it. It is a very tight time travel movie. It has a lot of setup and payoff, which I really appreciate. That keeps the tone and immersion in the movie really high for me. Watching those things when it feels like a real world That's a big deal. My concern with Donnie Darko is after doing some more research after the movie, trying to figure out, what is the real story behind the time travel alternate universe stuff. It's all explained in the director's cuts and in other stuff they put up online. And one thing that bugs me about complex movies is you have to give me some chance to figure out what's going on without needing like third-party help. So I guess that bugged me a little bit, but that may be on me for trying to look too deep into it. Harvey feels very much like a play. We just did musicals, and I would say similar-ish to me, like something that was taken off the stage and put on film. I could see it being a play and succeeding there. Very clever dialogue. It was very fast and sharp for a movie so old. Sometimes I feel like maybe that doesn't age so well, but the dialogue was great. And I would get more into it during acting, I'm sure, but Jimmy Stewart's so charismatic, the way he delivers his lines and drags you into the movie and stuff. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I thought the writing was strong on both of these movies. Very different, but very good.
Yeah, I guess I felt that, like with Harvey, everyone's mentioned how it was very play-like, and I kind of liked that a little bit, just because I know that the time period, they were taking a lot of stage stuff and they were trying things out. And I don't know, I guess I kind of expected it to be that way. Now I'm probably the outsider of this because I've seen both of those movies when I was younger. Really enjoyed Donnie Darko when I was younger, but I was kind of an odd kid then. Maybe I still am, but I really liked the space-time kind of stuff, and actually really got into looking up like all of the theories and the physics behind it, and was what he was talking about, was that true? And I actually read Stephen Hawking's book because of that movie. And but I don't know, I thought that Harvey was super fun. I don't think that the payoff was as great, because I still even to this day I still question. There were little idiosyncrasies that they did to make the viewer think, was Harvey really real, or was he not real, or was he crazy and so he thought he was? There's still some unsureness, I would say, in the way that I saw it. But with Donnie Darko, I know exactly what was going on. I just really like the science fiction, and it's just kind of this slow work up to everything, because you're like, is this kid just freaking insane? And they did a really good job of like turning that around and making it a real solid ending and a real solid way of realizing that this is actually what's going on, as opposed to Harvey. I don't know. I'm still on the fence. And I don't know, maybe someone else, saw it differently and thinks that they know what was going on. Even after he leaves the doctor at the end and with the doors opening, and I just, like, they were trying to make you believe that Harvey was real. And so that makes you question, was he? Or
no, I think there's, I was going to get into that during directing, but I think there's a reason for no, that's okay. But I feel there's a reason for all that stuff happening at the end. Sure.
I absolutely.
Yes.
And maybe you will
trivia.
spawn some magic into my brain and go, and I'll have a light bulb moment. But
I do understand what you're saying, though. There is this moment where there's almost a break in the reality of the movie, where you feel like the truth of what's happening, and then all of a sudden, at the end, you're kind of questioning it.
Yes. And in Donnie Darko, I was just like, oh, this is a little science fiction fun romp in the world of physics, and I'm down. I'm down.
Yeah, it just progressively becomes crazier, and you're in for whatever happens next.
Yeah, and Patrick Swayze. Whew.
Oh man.
We'll get into him later, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I felt like Donnie Darko reminded me a little bit of Primer, in the kind of complexity of the time travel story. Primer, Primer was a little bit more complicated in that there was like multiple instances of time travel kind of overlapping, and it got a little bit wacky, but there definitely was a certain level of complexity with Donnie Darko. But I also wondered if it was really, and maybe these things overlap in some way. I don't know. Maybe after having read the Hawking's book, Andrew, maybe you can explain this to me a little bit more. But I felt like there was a little bit of a kind of a parallel universe type thing too going on there, because it's as if at the end, it's as if these people realize that they were spared some sort of horrific future. Do you know what I mean? All these people are waking up in the middle of the night and, that kind of thing. And it's almost as if they realize somehow subconsciously or something that, hey, wait a minute, something has changed and it has spared me a lot of, heartache. But I don't know. It just, I wondered if it was kind of, time travel or a parallel universe or what it actually entailed there. But.
Well, and to that, I mean, I will say that time travel movies are really hard in the sense that they have holes all over them. I mean, even you can look at one of the most famous Back to the Future, things that get altered and, well, what did this mean? And how did that actually happen? Because this was happening then. And so it's really difficult to write a good time travel movie. And I felt that Donnie Darko did a good job of either portraying the time loop or in your perception of, a parallel universe or, just things happening to where you look at it and you're like, well, it kind of all filled in the circle. You aren't looking at all the problems that the potential time travel or the alternate universes actually created for their world that they're living in. And that is not an easy thing to pull off in any way.
Right. Yeah. I didn't feel like there were a lot of, paradoxes or anything that presented themselves necessarily.
Right.
Real quick, just to kind of run around the room, what version did you guys watch? Did you watch the director's cut or the original theatrical?
I think
I watched the theatrical.
I think I ended up watching the theatrical too. I think it wasn't super clear. I ended up renting it on YouTube actually.
Theatrical for me.
Okay.
And I've seen the theatrical multiple times, and then I saw the director's cut, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. Maybe it wasn't that long ago. It just seems like a really long time ago, but I've kind of stuck with the directors because I feel like, I don't know, I enjoy the movie. So
how does it vary? Is there anything noticeable that?
Andrew's got it. Well, I saw the original, like I said, years ago when it first came out, and then I went up on my shelf, and I guess I only have the director's cut that I had never watched. And so much time has passed, I couldn't tell the difference between the two. I had to go online and I even read here are the differences between the two, and I was like, I'm still not seeing it. So I don't know. I guess I watched the director's cut because it was like 2:15. But
does the director's cut have a lot of information from inside the book, The Philosophy of Time Travel?
Yes, it has has different chapters, pages in it.
Yep.
Yeah. Do they show that stuff? Because that's not in the theatrical version.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was very.
I don't remember.
Very
that.
helpful then. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get. That's what was annoying me about figuring out the reality of Donnie Darko when I went to explore it. I just wanted to see, did someone ever unravel this satisfactorily, or did someone talk to the director and get an answer? And apparently, it tells you everything in the director's cut, but the theatrical version leaves almost all of that stuff inside the book out.
Yes.
Oh, see, and the director's cut's pretty tight too. And I understand, he was a young director, and keep it under 2 hours, Richard. But it's got to be a better movie with that stuff in it.
Yeah, I guess I haven't seen the theatrical in so long. I don't even think about that because that's just always how the movie is for me.
I just remember the only thing I remember from the book is I think maybe his psychiatrist or whatever is going through it with him, and they show just a little bit about the things coming out of their chests.
Oh yeah, him and his
The
math
arrow of
teacher
time
as
or
well,
whatever.
or science teacher. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is
a
that-
lot of that stuff is explained in the director's cut about things like artifacts and the living receiver and the manipulated dead and all these other things that
Oh,
you wouldn't
no, that's-
understand if you don't see the theatrical.
Yeah, he
Oh.
goes through that with his therapist. He actually shows her the book, and they go over all of that and what it means. And there's like skeletal drawings exactly of
Mhm.
what that looks like. And he explains what he's read and how that applies to time travel and the warp that he believes he's in. And yeah, so
Wow,
there's
that's way
all-
different then because.
Oh yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, no, I don't remember any of that. There's just a brief shot of the book when I think he's talking to his therapist that I remember.
Yeah. He has a
Uh,
conversation with his science teacher about it too, and they talk about the old woman being the author of it.
Mhm.
But
Correct.
you miss almost all of the explanation of the book. The theatrical version is a lot more about mental illness and whether he's paranoid schizophrenic, and it leans more heavily that way until some of the more science fiction elements start to happen.
Yeah, because when he reads her book and picks it up, he starts believing that and understanding and actually vocalizes that he believes this is what is actually happening to him based on what she wrote in the book. And so he actually tells that to the therapist, and he does talk a little bit about it to his science teacher, but he actually vocalizes and says, I believe this is actually what presence I'm in right now. This is actually happening, and tries to describe it and everything else. So
Yeah, that definitely changes it for sure.
yeah,
I
I
guess-
guess like I said, I've only since watching the director's cut, I don't even think about the theatrical one. So I guess sorry, I guess we need to next time we need to
No,
say
that's
which
interesting,
one we should
though.
watch.
I guess maybe I'll have to watch it again.
I'm
I'll have
trying-
to watch the director's cut now.
I'm trying to find my trivia on that. I think he did the director's cut in like 9 days. The first edit of the film ran 2 hours and 45 minutes. Director's cut is very close to the version that premiered at Sundance. Oh, here we go. Newmarket Films, a movies U.S. distributor, approached Richard Kelly about doing a director's cut. He accepted the offer and did a re-edit with editor Sam Barrow in 9 days. Yeah.
Huh.
There you go. All right.
Well, he did a damn good job.
Let's go ahead and put it to a vote, fellas. Tom.
I got to go with Donnie Darko on this one.
All right. Andrew.
I'm also going to go with Donnie Darko.
All righty. Gabe.
Yeah, Donnie Darko for me too. I just felt like Harvey was a little bit too much like a stage play still.
And Kyle.
Yeah, clean sweep, Donnie Darko.
Wow. All right.
It's like a time warp or something. It sounded like Donnie Darko was said 4 times.
We're all in a tangent universe.
Weird.
The original Broadway production of Harvey by Mary Chase opened on November 1st, 1944 at the 48th Street Theater, ran for 1,775 performances, and won the Pulitzer Prize in Drama in 1945.
Wow.
Yeah.
Writer and director Richard Kelly came up with the idea for the future blobs while watching football. John Madden used to use a telestrator where he'd diagram a paused video to show where the players were about to go moments before letting the tape roll. Kelly watched this while high and started to think about what would happen hypothetically if someone upstairs, quote unquote, was doing that to humans. Fittingly enough, Donnie first notices the future blobs while watching football.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The abyss creatures.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
This one's kind of all over the place, just because the acting I felt in the movies was 2 different types of acting. So we're going to start with Harvey because I think it's the lighter of the 2. I can't say, honestly, I cannot say enough about how good we have for these actors. Jimmy Stewart is absolutely phenomenal. His way he delivers his lines, his charisma, his physical comedy, all the people that are around him and how they move in and out of his scenes. I mean, it just feels like he is so centered, and he just delivers this. I would love to sit and hang out with him. I mean, he just has this beautiful delivery of everything that he does. And then the doctor, the nurse, was it Peggy Dow? Just a gorgeous young little actress that she just fit the role so well. You've got the main doctor that goes from Chumley, who goes from basically this very straight-laced doctor to this woo. I see it. I see the lights. And there's just this acceleration from his character that is just fabulous. That it just is so warming and just fun to watch. And I think part of that does take from the fact that it was written originally for the stage, and it was very much shot, as we've mentioned before, like it was on stage still. So there was still a lot of that stage mechanics going on from a lot of the goofy physical comedy. I mean, the guy that he runs down the hall and you see the orderly mopping the floor, and you know what's going to happen. He goes in, he slides right across that soapy water, and then the nurse comes out and she's like, well, the doctor will see you in a minute. It's just so like over the top cheesy, but it makes that lightheartedness, that fun of the film that I really enjoyed. And every time he goes to a bar and he's ordering the martinis, and it's the bartender is Cracker, Mr. Cracker, right?
Is that his name?
Yeah, Mr. Cracker.
Mr. Cracker. And I'm just like, and it's funny because the bartender is just very nonchalant and just kind of accepts Harvey. It's like, oh yeah, he comes in with them, and it's just there's just so many really cute little performances that revolve around Jimmy Stewart that I really enjoyed and found were fun and just kind of, I don't know, it was fun. So that's my brief overview of Harvey. I'm sure people will talk about other stuff and we'll get into that. But so then moving on to Donnie Darko. So let's start with the easy one. Will be Jake Gyllenhaal. He's a really good actor. Everyone knows him now. He does. I mean, his chops have increased dramatically since Donnie Darko and all the things that he's done. And he's a really good actor. He makes a really creepy psycho. Like the scenes where he's, I guess you consider it kind of half in and out of time, where he's kind of sleepwalking, or at least they portray it that way. And he's just this dark, and he's kind of this half-assed smile. And then he looks in the mirror and he's stabbing the mirror with the knife. I mean, he is just a creepy MFer. He's just freaking nuts. And yet he turns out to be this kind of insecure, kind of weird, goofy kind of guy at the same time. And I really enjoyed this role for him, and I can see where he gets some of his specific muse, I guess, coming from this role and some of the other things that he's played. I can really see how well he has developed, and it's quite well. I really, really enjoyed it. Maggie Gyllenhaal, she's, I'm assuming I don't know if they got them together and were like, hey, you guys should both be in this movie together, or if they auditioned differently, I don't know. But, she's Maggie Gyllenhaal. But Patrick Swayze, I'm pretty sure takes the cake on this one because his character is so insane. And I don't know if he just had a blast playing it, if he was asked to go over the top, but he is just, he makes me laugh every single freaking time I see him, from the commercials to when he gets to the school and he's on stage, and he's just, oh my gosh. I love him. I really do. Really funny, really great. Donnie's parents, nothing super stands out. They do a fine, okay job, I guess. I mean, there's nothing that I saw with them that I'm like, oh yeah, that was really cool. He has a really neat conversation with his dad, but I think that's more opposed to some of the dialogue writing that was done in that scene that I felt was really strong. That really made him stand out a little bit. I can't remember the dad's name. Eddie Darko's the actor.
Holmes Osborne.
Yeah, Holmes Osborne. Thank you. He's done other stuff. He's a good actor. I really enjoyed that scene, though. I think that scene had a lot of power to that relationship that they had, and he delivered it very, very, very well. That's about, as much. We can probably talk more about a lot of the other characters. I found it, my last thing about acting is I found it really fascinating going back now and watching it and going, oh my God, he's in this. Oh my God, he's in this. And there was like all these people. I'm like, holy, I had no idea. You don't even think about it. And then as you've learned movies, you watch all these movies and later, and you see all these people that you're just like, holy bucket, Seth Rogen, Noah Wiley, Drew Barrymore. And you're just like, wow, there's all these people that are amazing now. So that's my high overview, I guess. That went really long. So someone tell me to shut up and play me out. I got nothing. All right, cool.
Yeah. I'll echo a lot of your sentiments about Jimmy Stewart. He's magnetic. Yeah. You want to sit down and have a drink with him, even if he's crazy. He's so inviting and likable. I was a big fan of Josephine Hull, who played his sister Vita. Reminds me a lot of a nicer version of my grandma, but still also a little bit crazy. But yeah, the acting in Harvey was really good. A little uneven in parts. Some actors up to the same standard. Donnie Darko is chock full of great actors. The Gyllenhaals, Drew Barrymore's in it, Noah Wiley, Patrick Swayze's great. Yeah, there's a ton of good actors in Donnie Darko, and they're all doing a really good job. Jake Gyllenhaal steals the performance. He's amazing as Donnie Darko. Really is talented. And now that I think about it, going through his career, I don't know that I've seen a Jake Gyllenhaal movie I don't like or don't like him in. No matter what he's doing, he's just a fantastic actor. And it was great to see him act alongside his real life sister.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've done that. Yeah. I don't know if they've done that anywhere else, but I don't know. It just made it feel a little bit more real. And maybe that's just too meta, but they had the whole family had a chemistry, but a bit of uneasiness. It felt realistic. I give a special shout out to, I just had her name. Damn. I think her name is Beth Grant, who played Kitty Farmer, the teacher who says, I doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion. She is a hatred magnet. She's so good at those roles.
Yeah.
Instantly dislikable and self-righteous. She's amazing at that. She was great. Seth Rogen looks so young in this movie. It looks like an accident that he's in it. You're like, oh, what the hell?
Well, I saw his name. I saw his name in the credits, and I was looking for him, and I didn't recognize him at first. He had been in a couple of scenes, and then I'm like, oh, that's Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Hey, who did that? That laugh. That sounded like Seth Rogen. Was that you, Kyle?
Yeah. Sorry, I laugh like that sometimes.
It was
when I'm high.
And I just can't help but think that, I wish Sam Twomey were here right now, because he would do our Jimmy Stewart impersonation.
Yeah.
Mike, maybe you can have Sam do a special cameo Jimmy Stewart for us at the end. Or something.
Maybe I can, yeah.
I agree. Jimmy Stewart, it was fun to watch. I'm not so It's interesting, and I don't want to steal any trivia. Do you have any do you have any like award trivia for acting, Mike?
No, I don't. I do not.
Well, I personally, I feel bad now because now I feel like I'm insulting Kyle's grandmother. In some way.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
But I didn't really like Josephine Hall that much. I found her a little bit irritating. Her kind of whiny voice was kind of irritating. But what do I know? She won an Oscar for that performance.
Yeah.
So
She's so manic. She's just so manic. I don't know. I just enjoyed it.
Yeah. But Jimmy Stewart was very inviting. He just seems like he would have been a likable person in real life. I don't know his real story, but I feel like that was maybe not such a stretch for him that he would be that charming and inviting in real life. Jake Gyllenhaal, I hope he's not that creepy in real life. Because
I doubt it. His sister is, but I doubt it. Oh, she drives me crazy.
I saw Jake on like Colbert or something not too long ago. Is that the one where he called somebody? Jake Gyllenhaal called another actor or somebody, and the guy actually answered, and he was on. I'll try to remember that. But he seemed really down to earth and charming, and as well. So I don't think he's that creepy in real life. And yeah, all those basically cameos from all those well-known actors now was just amazing. I don't know. I'm gonna have a hard time picking on this one. Maybe Tom can sway me.
No, because I'm kind of on the fence too. Basically, you have some big guns in Donnie Darko, and they all do a really great job telling the story. But at the same time, I kind of felt like the actors themselves probably didn't know what was going on. And is that really good acting, or was that just a reflection of they're telling this really crazy story and they don't really know how it's going to look at the end? Because it just seems like, even if they read the entire script, it's going to be really hard to visualize what this movie is going to be like. And is it going to be something that's going to be forgotten, or is it going to be something that, becomes a hit or a cult movie like Donnie Darko is now? And it just, I can't tell if the cast of Donnie Darko knew what they were getting themselves into, because
I have confirmation for you as soon as you're done.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was just talking to Phil Time. That's cool. You got some stuff. But then, then going up against, Jimmy Stewart and Josephine Hall. And I feel like everybody in Harvey are so committed to to the story, and both of these stories are so hard to tell. It's so hard to tell both of these stories well, and they both do such a great job. But I feel like with Donnie Darko, it leans more on the directing and the writing, whereas Harvey, if these actors don't sell this, it's not going to be a good movie. And everybody has to be good in it, from Jimmy Stewart down to the bartender. Everybody has to set their level of, how far are they willing to let Elwood push them, and with this rabbit. And, they seem to all have their reasons why they do and don't, play along with him. The bartender, obviously, he gets 2 drinks every time Elwood walks in. So I kind of want to give this one to Harvey, just because I feel like that's where the success of the movie lies.
I have to agree with Tom on that. But real quick, at the wrap party for the film, Seth Rogen and Jake Gyllenhaal, excuse me, agreed that they had no idea what the movie was about.
The Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yes.
Wow.
So, but at the same time, as all we have done, I would hope at least a kind of movie where even sometimes the director's not entirely sure how it's going to come out. And it's really hard to, or in the converse, it's really hard to portray this visualness that is really going to be happening once it's all cut and put together, that it is difficult to even explain. So you end up directing per scene instead of directing the movie, because it's easier to get the pieces that you need to fill in the story to make it so it's awesome, as opposed to I'm directing the whole movie and I know where this is going. It's more of, you guys aren't really going to get this part yet, so it's okay, but this is what's going on right now. And yeah, I mean, I think a movie like this would be very difficult to actually, and we're getting into directing, so I apologize, but would be hard to get the correct kind of acting out of your characters when they may not understand, purely because the director may not be able to put into words exactly how to explain it to the character. So you go with the simplest way, which is, I'm going to direct you and have you act this scene, so that way I get what I need out of it. And I just think it would be really hard. But
yeah, especially. Go ahead.
And that's so when that happens, what I usually do is I go look at the director's other body of work. So I like putting Irving Kershner down about Empire Strikes Back. I don't feel that he was the one that made that movie so great. I feel the editor deserved the credit for putting the story together in the way that they did.
yes,
Same with Donnie Darko. I feel like the editors actually received probably more credit than Richard Kelly, just because they were able to assemble such a great movie out of it. And I'm sure Richard Kelly had a strong hand in the editing, but I look at Richard Kelly's other movies and I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man. I mean, what happened with Donnie Darko that he hasn't been able to reproduce in any way whatsoever in the last 18 years?
well, and maybe that's just it. He's really good at directing the moments to get what he needs, and then the editor redirects the movie into the good story that everybody loves.
Yeah.
And maybe that just and maybe that is just another level of directing, that people don't see, that I'm a really good director because I can make the scenes happen. So we have the pieces to make an amazing movie. And then you have ones that they have this vision and they can just direct the whole thing and they know, and the editor is pretty much putting things in chronological order and that's it. So I don't know. Like I said, we're tipping into directing, so I apologize. I didn't mean to get us off on a
How
tangent.
dare you?
I know. I'm sorry.
All right. Do you guys want to add anything else to acting?
So the only thing I was going to throw out there was Devlin Chase, which is his little sister, regardless of everything else. And I know that there's lots of controversy, but they did pick her years later to play in the sequel to Donnie Darko. And she, it's the same actress. She's older, obviously. And I thought that was kind of cool to keep that same kind of family relation going for even the sequel, regardless of, we won't talk about the sequel, but I just thought that was really cool because Devlin Chase, she's probably not as popular, I would say, and stuff. I would say that the most popular thing that she has ever done was The Ring, but most people don't know her because of that, because, she looked like a psycho because she was Samara. But other than that, that's how I know her. I'm like, oh, that's Samara. She climbed out of a TV. So anyways, that's my throw in.
All right. Let's put it to a vote. Andrew.
Oh, I am so hard on the fence on this one. So just to keep things a little light, I'm going to say Harvey, I guess. Harvey. Yeah.
All right. Gabe.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence on this one too. But I really liked Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, so I think I'm going to go with Donnie Darko.
All right. Kyle.
Yeah, the acting in Donnie Darko is great. But I really envy Jimmy Stewart and his how he has to carry huge scenes where he's conversing with nobody. So I'm going to give it to Harvey.
All right. And Tom.
I'm giving it to Harvey.
I want to be able to talk like Jimmy Stewart and Harvey And I want to be able to talk to women and people around me like that. And everyone is going to, I'm just going to change my dialogue from now on.
All right.
Well, the result is you're either Jimmy Stewart or a cult leader.
Right.
That's like the two people.
Yeah. Those are the two types of people that are that charming.
Right.
Yeah. Jimmy Stewart, the actual individual Jimmy Stewart, or any cult leader,
or any guy who ever led a cult,
or Jim Jones. All right, just real quick, I forgot to add, you guys were talking about A Brief History of Time. I actually read that in high school. I love that book. It blows your mind. Seth Rogen's first line, and by default, his first line in a feature film is, "I like your boobs."
Nice.
It set a trajectory for his career, for sure.
It did.
Yeah.
You know what? That's better than all right.
James Stewart later declared in an interview that Josephine Hull had the most difficult role in Harvey, since she had to believe and not believe in the invisible rabbit at the same time. So he gave a lot of credit to her, and I think she deserves it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I didn't think about that.
So let's move on to our third round, directing.
We already did that.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry. God.
Let's put it to a vote then.
No, I got shit to say. Don't.
Okay. What's your vote? No. Directing. Well, we did kind of get into it a little bit, and it is interesting. You know, when we do the show, we sometimes in the past I think some of us have made votes based on an actor or a director's entire body of work, not necessarily based on these particular films. And I thought it was interesting you guys were talking about, Donnie Darko, and why has the director not made any other films that quite match it in such a long time? And it's hard to know that, but I think, I don't think this was his first time out either, was it? He had a couple of films under his belt, did he not?
This is his first feature.
Yes.
This was his first feature length?
Correct.
Well, I think Donnie Darko's, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it was received, publicly. I don't know if it did well in the box office or not, or if it was critically well received.
I can answer that for you if you want.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
It was a box office flop, kind of, because it happened around the time of the September 11th attack.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
and it featured an airplane disaster. So it got very little publicity. They kind of shoveled it into theaters, and it didn't make much money. But it was very critically well acclaimed and went on to become a cult classic.
And also the poster originally had Arabic symbols on the poster. Quickly after 9/11, they got rid of all of those.
I'm not sure what the relevance of those characters would have been on the poster.
Just like old timey, like Sanskrit type lettering.
I see.
Right. Old timey. Yeah. I say old timey like they're playing, piano instead of piano.
Ragtime.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's Harvey. That's a different the other one. But I have to say that it's a pretty good outing, for a first feature. I thought it was well put together. The editing was good. The cinematography was good. Even the visual effects I thought were pretty good for the time. Some of it was a little bit kind of chintzy looking, and that was minimal. They kept it to a minimum with the visual effects. But I was like, oh, that works. That's pretty cool how that communicates what he wants to communicate. And so I thought it was pretty good for a first outing. Harvey again feels like a bit of a stage play for me, but then again, that might be a product of the time period as well, because I feel like maybe a lot of movies were directed like that at the time. And early movies, they had to kind of break the idea of stage acting and kind of figure out over time what film acting actually is and film directing is. And so I don't know, but I just felt like it was very much still kind of stage that was just filmed. I'm trying to remember. There was another movie we talked about where I had the same feeling. It's like it's just a stage play that somebody ran a camera and captured on film. Now, the flip
Little
side,
Shop of Horrors?
well, that one I think they tried. That one I felt like it was a conscious decision, and I actually liked. In that instance, for some reason, I liked the idea that it was a movie that kind of looked like it was on stage, and I don't know why. And that one I kind of liked it. Because maybe it was because it felt intentional to me, like they were going for that, Yeah. I don't know. But I did pay attention a little bit to things like camera movement and those kinds of things in Harvey, and I was pretty impressed because the equipment was way different then. We're talking about big pieces of equipment to move around to get these fancy camera movements. And I was kind of impressed with some of the stuff that they were doing. I actually enjoyed black and white as well. And I felt like the lighting and the cinematography overall was pretty good. It was interesting to see. I could see the grain in the film at times. It stood out and I noticed it, but I'm like, oh, I kind of like that. There's kind of a charm to it or something. But I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys help me out? What do you guys think?
Well, I definitely say you're spot on when you say that they were trying to figure out the way to go from stage to movie, and it's really obvious, I would say, in Harvey, because on stage you cheat out a lot, which for those who don't know, you're trying when your back is supposed to be to the audience, your back is never to the audience. You're always cheating a little bit so that way your face is always shown and you can always hear your dialogue. And Harvey is a great example of that, of where the action is always kind of facing the camera. They're always, whoever's talking is always there looking at the camera, or in a way that, and the people's situations are always kind of in a way that are blocked, so that way they're kind of facing the camera. And I mean, it's that obviousness, whether you like it or not, but that is what really catches me. That's how I know that it's that way, I guess, because you can really tell just some of the way that they move and how they block the scene. But I've talked a lot about directing, so I'm going to hold my the rest of my comments.
There's a couple of things that I really like about Donnie Darko. The first is the use of the music, and not so much the score, but the pop music they use is just, it's songs I've heard a million times, but they're just like absolutely perfect. And so like every time I hear Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears, I always think of Donnie Darko now. And it's become like the connection. I mean, that's the only thing I think about whenever I hear that song. And same with Mad World and the NXS song Never Tear Us Apart.
Mad World, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they Donnie Darko took over these songs and kind of ingrained itself on them. The other thing too, I was really surprised when I watched Donnie Darko, is how much speed ramping is in there, and that was like all the rage 2 years ago, and Donnie Darko was doing it 15 years before that. Yeah. And speed ramping has destroyed wedding video. And oh my God, it is used to death. And it just, I've used it a little bit here and there, but my God. And to sit there and see a movie that's almost 20 years old using it. And I don't really know if Donnie Darko was the first movie to use it, but it must have been one of the first. But it uses it in a way that's not gimmicky like everybody uses it now. It actually is a way to move past kind of the mundane sections of a shot. And really kind of shows how good Richard Kelly is with moving the camera through space, especially, through the high school and all those actors and extras that they have to get around. On the other hand, so I feel like the direction in Harvey is done really, really well. And I know that it feels like a stage play, but Henry Koster uses the camera in such a cool way throughout the movie that his composition is set up throughout the movie that he doesn't really leave room in the frame for Harvey when the movie gets started. And then as the movie progresses on, suddenly you start to notice this empty space next to Jimmy Stewart. And even though there's nobody there, like Harvey starts to become a character. And so you start questioning it too. And then doors start opening by themselves and coin purses go missing. But I mean, we've done that. I mean, I've had my phone in my pocket and I'm like, I've had glasses on my face looking for my glasses. And that's like the genius of Harvey is that, while I don't think alcoholism is something that we all need to get behind, I feel like it's that thing that a lot of movies do. We're all a little mad sometimes, and Harvey does it in such a cute way that maybe we need to rethink mental illness and how it's treated and how we treat people with it, because it's not a you're sick, you're not. It's really a spectrum. And we kind of just slide up and down that scale all day long. And the favorite part that just like decided which way I was going to vote on this is the last shot in Harvey. When Harvey's and Elwood are walking up the path and the gates close and we're the ones inside the asylum and Elwood's walking down the street. And it was just, I don't know. It was such a genius shot. And I pointed out to my kids and they just fell over laughing. They thought it was absolutely great that in the end of the movie, we're the ones on the inside. So
walking towards the sunset.
Yeah. And the gates closed right in front of our face. And it's just, it's a genius little movie and I just absolutely love it. So
I have something to say.
Let me put my scotch down here.
I have something to say, a little bit of trivia about Harvey. Mary Chase had the idea that film audiences should actually see Harvey at the end of the film because she didn't want anybody to go out of the theater thinking Elwood is just a lush.
No.
He believes in Harvey, and I don't think the audience ought to believe in I think the audience ought to believe in Harvey too. The studio reportedly considered this and experimented with how to show him to the audience, including his appearance and silhouette. And even by attaching a rabbit tail to the taxi driver at the film's conclusion. In the end, however, the studio won out and wisely decided not to ruin the illusion. Only once had a giant rabbit actually appeared on stage in the play of Harvey, and the result was disastrous. Theatrical producer Brock Pemberton, that's a great last name, recalled in 1945 interview that the performance in Boston, a chill descended on the gathering, which never quite thawed out afterwards. So they decided not to show it.
Good choice.
Which
really smart.
Which it comes down to the whole Hitchcockian thing, right? Like, don't show. The audience is going to make up whatever they want in their head, and it's going to be worse than what you show them.
Harvey would not be nearly as good a film if you see a giant rabbit at the end.
Right.
Oh, we wouldn't be talking about it right now.
Right.
No, I really think that would be disastrous.
I wouldn't have left feeling unsure. Like, that's what makes the movie so great.
Yeah. Well, they deal with really cool issues in Harvey for a movie that's 70 years old or almost now, right? 1950. So, mental illness and alcoholism. And at the end, they're really discussing giving up your individuality to be like everybody else. And, people may want you to feel better and to not have these illusions, but they don't want you not to be yourself and have the things that make you happy, and a lot of cool ideas. And the way they move the camera and block the shots, in particular, some of the things I picked up on during the party is the way the shots were framed in Harvey. He would line people up shortest to tallest, it looked like, and kind of frame, block the shot that way. And they had the woman performing on the stage. So they would go from right, and you would have short to tall towards the middle of towards the left hand of the frame, then show the action on the stage. And when they went to the left, it would descend. And I just thought that was really kind of cool. And like Gabe said, you're using 1950s equipment. Getting this stuff in there to get shots much more difficult than now. One of the movies that I love to talk about cinematically is called Rope. It's by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And it's one of the first experiments in like long takes. Yeah. The only time it cuts is when they like zoom into someone's back so they can change the film. And those are huge 1960s cameras there. I mean, they had to build the set on wheels so they could move stuff around. So I'm always impressed when they can get really creative shots in movies sold, because the equipment was so much different than it is now.
Well, and those long shots, if the shot got messed up, I mean, that's just wasted film. I mean, that's really you gotta get the shot. So
you don't get to rewrite over it.
You can't just delete it or put in another card.
Reformat the film.
And they couldn't rely on visual effects.
Yeah, you can't CGI over the top.
They had to actually get this.
I will tell you one thing though that now we're thinking about, and I know I'm going off on a little tangent about Rope, but I think Rope makes the mistake that Harvey almost did by showing at the beginning of the movie something that you should be left guessing about. And I'm going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen Rope, but at the beginning of the movie they show something happen that I wish they wouldn't have, so that you were wondering the entire time. But yeah, now I'm thinking about that movie again. I gotta watch it. But for Donnie Darko, I talk a lot sometimes in directing about a tone of a film, and I really love that. It feels self-contained, like you're in a world. There's nothing that takes you out of it. Donnie Darko has that to me. It has this feeling of, from top to bottom, from beginning to end, like nothing about it feels out of place. As wacky and weird as it gets, it all feels intentional, and none of it feels wasted or superfluous. And I really like that.
Yeah, I would say that I noticed that a lot in Donnie Darko, where you would go to the scenes where he was actually with Frank, and it would be darker. It was more contrast, and then you would go into family time, and it was just like any other, teeny bopper type movie, high school movie, where it's just normal sun, everything's hunky dory, and then it goes back with Frank in it, and it's dark, and you're like in this. You're in his world. You're in Jake's world at that time. And I thought that was really symbolically well done. I will say that I really enjoyed the very end. I don't know how much we want to spoil, but
there's spoiler warnings.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. But the car hitting his girlfriend, that's intense. Like that normally, in a lot of those kind of shots, they would shoot it, she would get hit and come back, and you just know that she got hit. And I mean, you watch the car roll over that girl. Yeah. Like it looked like Malone was laying on the ground and just got run over by a car. Like that was intense. And I mean, that's not something that even in today's standard, not shown like that in quite the way. And it was done artistically. I think it wasn't, blood and guts and all of a sudden the car bursts into flames or anything. But yeah, I guess with directing, you guys have all said it. I think we've hit the directing. The one thing I will say about directing is now that I've, as I've seen movies multiple times, and in this case, both of these, I think about, how would I direct these, or would I do that the same way? And it gets me to start thinking about exactly what they were thinking, or how they were thinking that shot should come out. And would I do it differently? Would I be able to perform the same type of direction and be able to make the movies that have come out? And it really, I guess it drives my artisticness to look at two completely toned movies and see would I do it the same way. I really got into that specifically with Donnie Darko. Science fiction. I'm more of a science fiction kind of guy, and watching Donnie Darko, I just really got into like, oh, would I've done it this way? Oh, how would I have changed that, or would I have done something different and it would have been worse, and so it helps me learn. It makes me think. It really gives me ideas for potential things, and it drove me from, I guess, Donnie Darko drove my mind to think that way. Whereas Harvey, I think it was well shot and neat, and I don't know. I've never shot that kind of a movie before, so I don't know if I could do some of the things that they visualized. Some of the subtleties, like the spacing that we were talking about, and the way they drove home adding Harvey as a character without the character. And I don't know. Those are some impressive things, but it does make me think regardless. But that's just a different perspective of just watching them, for multitudes instead of unfortunately for the first time. Because I know when I watched them the first time, I didn't think about any of that stuff. That's my spiel, I guess. I hope it was entertaining at least. I don't know. A little insight into the good old Andrew.
Silence.
I just killed the podcast.
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what we're going to talk about for the last category.
Right. I was just leaving it there because I agree with you. I'll watch a film first and enjoy it, and then when I go back through, I'm like, I try to figure out how they get certain things, how they do certain things. So, yeah, I agree with you totally. Let's go ahead and put it to a vote then. We'll start with Gabe.
I think I'm going to have to go with Donnie Darko.
All right. Kyle.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I originally was going to vote for Donnie Darko, but I think Tom convinced me to change my mind. I'm going to go for Harvey.
All right. Tom?
I was going to vote for Donnie Darko, but that would be weird after what Kyle just said, so I'll vote for Harvey too, yeah. I'm kidding. I was going to vote for
Andrew?
Donnie Darko.
All right.
I have no foundation.
It crumbles so easily.
I am adrift in a sea of wavering opinions.
Is that it? We're all changing our votes. Everyone votes for Harvey. Is that what this? I mean, come on.
I'm easily swayed.
Tom's arguments were very convincing.
Yeah.
Sure.
At the suggestion of James Stewart, the director changed many shots to make them wider so that Harvey would be in the frame.
No way.
Yes.
Smart. So smart.
Yes.
Oh, so it's not even the director. Oh. I want to change my vote
back. Take it back.
Information that would have.
You guys kept saying that, and I'm just staring at this. I'm like, wait till they hear this.
Information that would have been nice to know yesterday.
The director would have figured it out. He'd have figured it out.
Yeah.
I expect more from the director of The Singing Nun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How tall is Jimmy Stewart? He's got to be 6'3", 6'4"?
He is 6'3".
Okay, so Harvey is the same height as him, so it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, but did you notice that he was always looking up?
I was going to say that.
Harvey's more like 7 feet tall.
Yeah. Actually, it stated in some of the trivia.
3.5.
It stated in some of the trivia I was reading that he would be 6'8", 6'9". Yeah,
I think
he would
says,
Chewbacca.
I've never seen.
I
don't know.
6'3" and 3/8 at some point.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't know
the facts. Just state
what
the
an average height is for an imaginary rabbit. I don't know. I don't. Yeah.
Large mythical.
A puka.
Yeah. See, that's. Well, we can get into that in the next category.
Yes.
I'll let you finish.
Yes.
What you're doing, Mike.
Thank you for shutting up, Gabe. Well,
Gabe, I still love you. I still love you.
I'm kidding. I'm joking. You know, we used to have a saying on this podcast. Gabe, you ignorant slut.
Oh, yeah.
I still like you, Gabe.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
While filming the scene where Kitty Farmer speaks to about how Donnie directed her to put a lifeline exercise card in an uncomfortable place, writer-director Richard Kelly laughed so hard he had to leave set. So, I found that funny. I think I probably would have busted up laughing too. There's been a few times on set I've had to cover my mouth. So yeah, let's move on to overall so we can discuss Gabe's puka.
Pukas.
Yes.
Mostly things
I can't wait to talk about my puka.
All right, Gabe.
Oh. Mostly things
Actually,
hold on. I start this category. We
Right.
went through this in the beginning. Shut up, Gabe.
All right.
When I think of pukas, I think of the shells that frat boys wear around their neck and necklaces. That's what I think of. Like California frat boys. Aren't those called puka shells? All right, that joke fell flat.
Right.
Anyways. Should have fucking let Gabe start.
Mine out and just what it says.
Yeah, go take a look at your puka shell, Gabe. So yeah, in this category, we generally talk about a lot of things that don't fit into the other categories, but we've discussed quite a bit about these movies. Talk about editing real quick. I think that's the argument Tom made that kind of swayed me, because I have followed Richard Kelly's career post Donnie Darko, and nothing works this way. Southland Tales, The Box, like other movies I've seen of his that are just, they sprawl and get out of control. They're not nearly as good, in my opinion. But the use of music is very well done in Donnie Darko. It's a little more difficult in 1950s movies, but I do love that old-timey orchestral score that accompanies a lot of these movies. I love the look of the black and white. It has a very almost romantic look, very charming. I love the way it's lit. But yeah, the music was, going back to the music real quick, I just want to mention, I think this is the third episode in a row we've mentioned In Excess. So thanks, Tom, for that.
No problem.
Choke jerkin is still a running gag in this podcast. It's never going to die, unlike
Anyway,
David Carradine. It's okay. It's okay. It's been a long time. It's fine.
Okay.
Too soon?
Too tsunami. Boy, I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of out of things to say. I think we've discussed a lot of this. But no, don't tell me already. You can't play me off the stage. I said I'm out of things, but I'm going to keep talking. That's never fucking stopped me from talking before. I will say, though, that these are both movies. I didn't know what I was getting into watching these two movies together. The only connection I could think of was they both involved imaginary rabbits. But it turns out maybe they both involve real rabbits in some way. And they have a lot of common themes about mental difference and individuality and struggles we face sometimes in the way other people view us, or view people who go through those struggles. And yeah, just a lot of things I found in common I was really surprised with. And I'm pleasantly surprised at how much I liked Harvey, considering I had never seen it and didn't know almost anything about it.
Man, you hit the
time
nail
travel
on the head right there, Kyle.
What?
You just that explanation. Like I went in, I'm like, okay, two giant rabbits. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if we keep track of who comes up with the recommendations for the movies.
I'm taking full credit for this one. Sorry.
Tom. Excellent job, Tom. Excellent job. But there have been a few, I would say, in the last 6 months that they just seem, I don't know, they seem kind of flimsy. The connection between them seems, I don't know if you call it flimsy, but yeah. But man, they come out and they have so much in common that I didn't anticipate. I find it, I'll use the word delightful. I find it delightful. It's so refreshing and interesting to get into these movies and find all the commonalities. It feels like kismet, like some kind of synchronicity. You know, it's amazing.
Well, even the time travel aspect in Harvey, I totally had forgotten about that. And when he said it, I was like, "Oh my God, seriously?"
Yeah.
I mean that was I was very surprised because, like I said, I totally had forgotten that entire conversation, and then I watched it and was preparing to watch Donnie Darko after, and I was like, "Oh my God, no way!"
You have to wonder if Richard Kelly was influenced by Harvey.
Isn't that's what I thought too? I was just like, "There's too much here." Like,
Yes,
it's so strange.
And everything I've dug up, though, there's no mention of it.
Wow.
Yeah, you would think it would at least be kind of a, tip of the hat, because
Right.
the rabbit could have been anything.
yeah,
It could have been any Halloween costume. Ever.
Screw it. Let's call Richard
could have
right
been-
now.
Jesus, it could have been either one of them could have been a foot taller, but no, they were both 6-foot imaginary rabbits.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really
And the
strange.
psychiatry and the prescription drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Well, just real
If
quick.
he was not influenced by Harvey, then that's a miraculous coincidence.
Right. And,
They really share a lot in common.
subconsciously,
right.
maybe.
Yeah.
The puka is primarily a creature of Celtic folklore, considered to be bringers both of good and bad fortune. They could either help or hinder rural and marine communities. So, because once
What do you think,
he had
Mr.
that,
Wallace?
once he had that conversation with the lady in the car, I'm like, what puka? They named it. So I'm watching the movie, Googling stuff, and I'm like, this is nuts.
Well, he looks it up in the encyclopedia
Yes. Yep.
because it ends with him going, "What do I think, Mr. Wallace?"
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The orderly.
Mr. Wilson or whatever.
Wilson, yeah, sorry,
Wilson.
Mr. Wilson.
I like that orderly, by the way.
yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about the puka because
Yeah. Well, and,
it's number one, it's
a
a great name, but number
It is.
two, the actual picture that they show looks more like a gremlin, like a giant gremlin. And there was an episode of American Horror Anthology series
Yeah.
called Puka. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, I thought that that puka reference kind of brought up the subject of ambiguity in Harvey again, because we mentioned early on, there's an ambiguity as to whether or not Harvey is real.
Yeah.
And in one way, it kind of, on one hand, you start out thinking about kind of the mental health issues, but then there's some hints throughout the movie that it might not be a mental health issue at all, that this puka, this spirit might actually be around because other people are seeing it.
Right.
His sister admits to seeing it.
Right.
The doctor eventually sees it.
Yeah.
And
Somebody
in a certain
painted the
sense, we
picture.
see it.
Yeah,
we
someone
see
painted that
its
picture.
impact on the environment, or at least what we perceive that to be, because he's looking for Harvey. Well, and that's the other thing. Harvey goes away sometimes, and he's with other people, and we don't know where he is. And one time he's looking for Harvey, and he finds him sitting on that like swing, that porch swing like thing, and it's actually moving.
But
And it,
that-
in a way, it kind of implies that there's something actually there. Now, you could maybe argue it was the wind or something else, but I mean that there's always these ambiguous hints, especially near the end of the movie with the door closing, all of that kind of stuff. So I didn't know.
I guess
I didn't know what it was really getting at. I found it ambiguous.
I guess that ambiguity. That's the part that I guess I was more confused of whether or not they were trying to portray, and everything up until the very end. I mean, because you're right. You could do the porch swing was wind. You could do the doors opening was wind, or just they were slow or whatever. But at the very end, the gate handle moves by itself to open the gate,
Mm.
and there's no that.
There's
to
no
me,
other explanation for that.
Right. And that's where I'm like, so was Harvey really real then?
Right. And then what is that? Yeah, what is in a way, to me, that kind of diminishes the message about mental health.
Well, and the
If
doctor spent a ton of time with him too.
right, right, the doctor saw him and was running from him, but then somehow was enamored with him and liked the idea of going to Akron with him.
He went out to eat with him, and I don't.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They went to have a drink or whatever. Or some other. He went to some other establishment with him. Yeah.
Right, and he talked. I mean, that's why up until the end, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I see where we're kind of going with this, and then at the end, it's like, maybe he really is there.
That's what they want you to do, though.
Right, and that's why I
Exactly.
think it's a great movie. That's the point.
Yeah, like who are we to tell them that they're wrong? I mean, if it's real to them, then it's real. Maybe the solution isn't trying to bring them back to reality. So,
and maybe the ending was purely the audience bringing the audience in and saying, "Audience, you believe now," and so Harvey actually opened the gate for you. I mean, there's so many ways that you could spin just that shot before they leave, and the gates close in front of the audience. That's what I love about that movie. That's what I think is just. That's why I said that. I'm like, I don't really know.
Well, another thing that stood out to me in Harvey is the treatment of women. And I'd like to know what your guys' thoughts about how women are treated in Harvey, and also the fact that it was written by a woman, and that she's writing these characters and these situations this way.
I was really uncomfortable, at least in the scene where the orderly corners the daughter. He pushes her. He pushes her up against a wall, and he's like, I'm smoking a cigar. And then she's like, I'll make all these things for you, and I'll be in the kitchen, and I'll make your life great. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Egg and onion sandwich.
Hey,
let me just point out that is disgusting.
I'm making one tomorrow for lunch. I'm looking up the recipe right now. Egg and onion.
God.
Oh, Jesus.
Sandwich. Oh, look at that. Okay. I'll get you guys the recipe here. Shortly.
If they get married, she's in for 30 years of hideous farts. He's eating egg and onion sandwiches and won't stop smoking cigars and yelling in her face.
Oh, God.
Jesus.
Yeah, but Andrew's right. I mean, that scene, he's like kind of like rude and threatening and near violent with her.
Yeah.
And she falls in love with him.
And she's
like enamored with that. And I'm like, and it's the same with the nurse and the doctor at the sanitarium.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's such a dick. He's a total dick to everybody all the time, especially to her. He's so rude to her. Oh, all that, flapping your eyelashes and whatever, he says, works on other people, but I'm immune to it. And,
right.
And he's just always so rude to her.
See now, but I think there's more of a purpose for that storyline between the doctor and the nurse, because it's like it's kind of the inverse of Harvey. Sometimes, people see things that aren't standing, just aren't there next to them. And sometimes people don't see something that's right there in front of their face. Mm-hmm. Like this girl is trying everything to get his attention, and he's completely missing it. Right. And it's like the opposite of what Elwood's going through is, seeing something that's not there. So I think
Why can't she see that he's a total misogynist dick?
Well,
she can't see that either. She can't see what's directly in front of her face.
Let me mansplain this for you, Gabe.
Okay.
Okay.
But I will point out that there is the scene when she comes down to say goodbye and basically, I'm going to miss you, and maybe we don't have to leave it like this, and maybe we still have a chance. And he's really rude to her, and from that feminist aspect that is going with her character, she shifts almost instantly. She's like, you know what? Screw you. I hope you have a nice life. Goodbye. There's nothing else I need to say.
Yeah.
So that she is a very I would consider a strong woman character in a very early movie that you would not normally see, because normally it's the damsel in distress. And I was really shocked at that scene now, seeing that and going, wow, that was very an empowering scene for a woman at that time.
Right, but she like changes her tune like almost instantly.
I was going with one damn scene.
I know, but then there's a lot of kind of like it's either kind of this threatening violence toward women or unwanted sexual advances toward them. Even Jimmy Stewart, Elwood's character, even he is a little bit creepy at times with how much he's complimenting her and telling her how beautiful she is and all that kind of thing. Where he's charming throughout most of it. There were parts of it, his treatment of women was a little bit like, I just found it a little strange, especially, through today's lens.
I feel like you can kind of put that together with his treatment of everyone. He's overly friendly and familiar with every person he meets.
Exactly.
It's true. Yeah.
And when you try to look at stuff like that, I always try to remember that it's written 70 years ago. So times were very different then. But there is something to be said about having a female writer, and the men in this movie are sometimes portrayed, outside of Harvey, are portrayed as either thick-headed, the doctor is just oblivious and arrogant, and because of that continually makes mistakes. Yeah. Chumley is dismissive of his wife and everyone else around him, and because of that you hate him. And the orderly is violent and enjoys violence and is loud, and he's really grating, and he doesn't get along with anybody in the movie and basically just wants to fight everybody and loves roughing up mentally ill people. The only anomaly there is that he doesn't. Yeah, well, she has this thing put on her by Vita that she is old and needs any man who will take her. Like they're pawning her off, And so I think she's got it into her head that this is her last best chance, right? Of this guy who smokes cigars and is loud and eats
she's about ready to go to
egg
college.
Sandwich.
What do you expect?
Oh, but she's a spinster in the 50s, man. I mean, Vita tells her like, "Oh, you're never gonna get anybody." It's a little strange.
But
I don't know. That just really stood out to me in Harvey, and I realize it's a product of the time and probably was not unusual at that time, but it really stood out to me nowadays.
Well, and one of the things I thought was, this is why I said that I'd want to be endearing like that, is when he's sitting in the bar and he's like, "Can I hold your hand?" And he asks her permission. And I thought that was really I was like, wow.
And you don't?
Well,
you just...
I think it goes to show...
I just reach out and grab it.
Just grab it. Just take it.
Not anymore. I'm going to be Jimmy Stewart now.
For sure.
I'm getting business cards printed with 2 different phone numbers, so I can...
And one that doesn't
call me
work.
At this one. Don't call me at this. This one's old.
Well, I think it just goes to show how much of a kind-hearted person that character was.
Yes.
Just how he treats everyone, and why people put up with that, with the fact that he has this possible 6'9" giant rabbit imaginary friend, right? Is because he is so cordial to people and he is very kind to people. And I think the other male characters and even the female characters for that matter, show us in our everyday lives and how, we're like Tom has said, a couple of times, oh, he's just mentally ill, oh, he just has a problem, where we look down upon that, but he's actually a gentle soul that is really means no harm to anyone. He's never met a stranger, it's
right.
It just totally shows the difference in the world at that time with that character. And I mean, even today, is that much different?
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just saying one of the best lines that he delivers is after he puts the flower, because he says, I was going to put it on myself, but I misplaced my buttonhole. And he puts it on her. And then I think it's a couple beats later, he comes back to her and he says, you make my flower look beautiful.
Right.
I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
That's
So charming.
gold, right?
Yeah.
Charismatic.
Down.
Yeah,
He's great.
He's in.
It's great.
No.
You know, and
Andy dropping stuff.
and to Mike's point too, the stuff that they talk about in Harvey. I mean, it just kind of stroll through your Facebook news feed, and I mean, we're still talking about this stuff today.
Yes.
About the needs for proper mental illness care, and it's and just trying to we're still trying to figure out how do we deal with this as a society, and it's we haven't gotten very far.
So
No.
And
out of all of this, I'm sure this will possibly spawn other stuff. I hope it doesn't kill the conversation, but I will say the taxi driver character is the smartest person in the entire movie.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because at the very end, when they're talking about the serum 977, and he says, you know what? You're right. We want everyone to be like everybody else, but basically everybody else is boring. And he's at least interesting, and he's being himself. And isn't that more important? And he is like that right there. I was like, holy crap. That's the most brilliant thing said in the entire movie, regardless of how much you enjoy, hate it, whatever. That was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that was synonymous with, Donnie's mom. Well, Donnie's mom encouraging him to take his pills or whatever, or his sister calling him out and not taking his pills. It's the same. It's the same idea. Donnie's not the same person when he takes them.
right.
And they don't say it very explicitly, but you can tell he dreads the idea of having to take these pills, and because he's not himself.
Well, they have that conversation in the bed too, where she's crying and he says, "What's it like to have a wacko for a son?" And she says, "It's wonderful." You get this sense that they really do love Donnie, even with his problems. And I think to Mike and other people's points, it's for a movie made in 1950 to have such a deep message about being an individual, not being like everybody else, and your quirks are okay. You're not hurting anybody with them. Don't succumb to, just being grumpy and surface and concerned about status and going after money and marriage and all these things. That's really remarkable. Really remarkable for how old it is to have a message like that.
Well, yeah, because even in that whole speech the taxi driver gives, he's like, it's amazing because they sit and we watch the sunset. And sometimes it's pouring down rain, but we still watch the sunset together. We watch birds when there aren't any birds. And then they start complaining about the way I drive. They complain about how bumpy the ride is, where I should be going, how. And I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, wow. It was so seeing it now and making those realizations. It was quite enchanting to see that. I was blown away by that speech. I do also want to point out that Harvey actually has a credit on IMDb, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
Well, they used to order lunches for him.
Oh my God!
He would have a spot.
What did he eat? Carrots?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Martinis.
I found an article on Entertainment Weekly from 2017 where they ask Richard Kelly where Donnie Darko the look came from. And he said that he doesn't know. He probably come from a dream or something subconsciously, or the fact that he always liked Watership Down. And he said the one thing that wasn't an influence was the other film about a 6-foot rabbit. And he says with a laugh, "I've never seen Harvey."
Really?
To this day. So
see that's crazy.
He could be lying. He could be lying.
be.
Sure.
Okay. Now, also, it sounds like there's a remake of Harvey in the works.
Yeah. Well, there was one in the 70s too. Jimmy Stewart did Harvey again in the 70s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they made it.
It was a TV movie. It's 1972.
Oh.
Really?
Yes.
And it was Jimmy Stewart again.
Correct.
Was it called Harvey?
Yes.
Or was it? Oh,
Yeah.
Huh.
interesting. Yeah, but it sounds like I think there's a possibility that Netflix is doing a remake. Yeah, I wondered what you guys thought of that. Is that one of those territories that you just don't touch? You just don't go there? Like remakes of things like classics like Psycho or...
Hold on, they also did a 96 remake, too.
What?
Of Harvey?
Yeah,
Harvey?
Harry Anderson.
Harry Anderson.
Leslie Nielsen.
That's
No
right.
way.
That's right.
Why are those not showing up on IMDb? Where are you getting those? I'm not seeing
on
them.
IMDb.
I'm not seeing them there.
Yeah, Harry Anderson, Leslie Nielsen, Swoosie Kurtz, Jonathan Banks.
So they also have a Harvey listed that is currently in development, and Peter Segal, I think, but is the director.
Yeah, that's the one. It says J. David Stem and David N. Weiss are set to adapt for Netflix.
Huh.
Yeah. A man befriends an invisible 6-foot-tall rabbit, a remake of the 1950s film.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there are certain... now, I guess people have... Yeah, I wasn't aware that there were other remakes of it, including one with Jimmy Stewart. But it seems to me like one of those movies where it's like it's an iconic and classic almost instantly. Like you just don't go there.
You don't touch
I
it.
kind of want to see the Harry Anderson one.
It's got a 5.4 rating.
You know what? Instead of remaking it, why don't you promote it and say, everybody, look at this awesome movie you probably haven't seen because it's 70 years old?
Well, Harvey, they did the first video release in 1990, and it was, I want to say it was 90, or was it 92? But it was the best-selling VHS for that year. Yeah, 1990.
Wow.
Really?
That took just a little longer than it did to get Jurassic Park on VHS.
Yeah.
It's like 15 months
Yes.
to get Jurassic Park on VHS.
Yep.
Leslie Nielsen plays Dr. Chumley. That's weird.
That'd be great. I actually would like that.
I kind of want to
like
see this.
I don't know why, but I feel like I'm kind of okay with like a Harvey remake because I don't feel that it's in the same league as like It's a Wonderful Life or Casablanca or Psycho. It seems like it's if done really, really well, that it could serve a really good purpose to kind of continue this discussion that we're all having about, mental illness. However, the writers they have attached to it are the guys that wrote The Smurfs and Daddy Day Camp. So I'm not. I am not
the new one.
Jesus, this is. I mean, it's. Yeah, the one that Netflix is doing. They got the guys from Smurfs.
Is there a chance that this is one of Adam Sandler's movies that's he's signed one of those deals with Netflix and he's going to end up being the dude?
I'd like to point out too, I said Daddy Day Camp, not Daddy Daycare.
The sequel.
Shitty first movie, but the
sequel,
horrible sequel. So this isn't looking good.
All right. Let's put it to a vote, gentlemen. Start with Kyle.
Oh, don't come to me first. Shit. I really liked Harvey, and my admiration for it has only grown tonight having this discussion with you guys. I have a special place in my heart for Donnie Darko as a time travel tangent universe movie that doesn't feel shot full of plot holes, and I think that's remarkable. And that's really fucking hard for me to vote on this. I'm going to vote for Harvey.
All right.
Wow.
It's well thought out.
It's really close.
Yeah.
I like both these movies.
No, that's good. Tom?
I'm surprisingly, I'm gonna go Donnie Darko, just because we ended the conversation about remaking, and I feel like you could remake Harvey if you did it well. I don't think you could remake Donnie Darko. I feel like I just don't think. Here's the thing. I think you could improve upon the 1950 Harvey. I don't think you could improve Donnie Darko. I don't even know where you'd begin to do that. So It's a stupid criteria for picking overall. But that's where we left it off with, so that's what I'm gonna go with.
All right.
You haven't seen the sequel then.
Yeah.
So you can't. That the sequel may be. A lot of times people make a sequel because they feel like they can improve upon the first movie in some way or another, or add to it. And apparently that may not be the case.
Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, watching Harvey in a new light. I really enjoyed it more than I think I expected. I really got more fun and goofy out of it. But I'm going to fit with the Colts, and I'm going to vote for Donnie Darko. I think it's a childhood kind of thing, but Donnie Darko.
All right. Gabe.
Yeah, I think, this is the first time I've seen Harvey 2 as well. Harvey as well, not Harvey 2. And I think my appreciation for it has grown definitely during this conversation. I enjoyed it, and I really did enjoy Jimmy Stewart, and I found it very charming, and there were some very interesting topics covered. But I had seen Donnie Darko before, and I kind of liked it, but I'm not sure I fully understood it. But I think I got a lot more out of it this second viewing. I think somebody said that earlier too, that they had gotten more out of it, like Kyle or somebody. It is a tough vote. They're both good films. I think I'm going to go with Donnie Darko.
All right. Let's see here. Get to my trivia. Judging by what is seen and heard of the Evil Dead in the movie theater scenes, which, by the way, was originally supposed to be Chud that they were watching in the theater, but they couldn't figure out who owned the rights, and Sam Raimi stepped in and said, hey, you could just use mine for free. So they took it. It takes the better part of an hour for Donnie to go from the movie theater to Jim Cunningham's house, start the fire, and go back to the theater just in time to catch the end of the film. You can listen for Bruce Campbell's scream.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess if you knew the movie and could detect what was playing in the background. Yeah.
Prior to the release of the film of Harvey, a press release reported that Francis, the talking mule, would make a cameo appearance. James Stewart as Elwood P. Dowd was to walk past Francis, and Francis was to speak. Elwood would turn in order to respond, but Francis would rebuke him, stating that he was talking to the big rabbit. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that wasn't it.
Yeah.
So my dad loved Francis the Talking Bill, so I've seen all those movies. It's crazy, but I am glad to see that did not make the cut.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our recommendations for this month, and I'll tally up the votes. Let's start with Tom. So
I think the biggest surprise movie last year was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think it's pretty unanimous. So I was trying to think of another bunny movie. And so Peter Ramsey, the genius director behind Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, his movie before this was actually a movie called Rise of the Guardians. And it's this really beautiful and clever movie about the mythical creatures that we grow up with, Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and Jack Frost and the Tooth Fairy. And they are kind of like an Avengers squad that are tasked with protecting children's childhood. And it's really, really well done. And obviously, if you've seen Spider-Verse, you know the kind of the story that Peter Ramsey's able to put together, and he does it really well. There's actually some really cool parallels between the two, because just like all the Spider-Men coming together to work together, that's what happens in Rise of the Guardians when Pitch, the villain in the movie, starts invading children's nightmares. And it's really well done. It's got a really great cast. Alec Baldwin and Jude Law and Isla Fisher are all in it. It's very funny. Roger Deakins, the famous cinematographer, is a visual consultant on it. So you have a very beautifully lit computer animated film. So I would I'd definitely check it out. If you liked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and you like the Avengers, this is kind of a cool combination of the two, because it's a really great story. I hope they make a second one because I enjoyed it so much. It was a kind of a nice surprise.
It made me feel like a little kid the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
I felt like a little kid again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was.
There's one part, I don't want to give it away, but there's one part towards the climax where I jumped up and started cheering, and I don't do that for every movie, and it does make you feel like a little kid again. So
yeah.
All right, thanks, Tom. Andrew,
Cool.
So since we didn't follow along with what I suggested at the beginning, I'm gonna do it. If you haven't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, then mention Harvey in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So that puts all things in perspective. But no, my real recommendation actually is another Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Is Nocturnal Animals. And if you haven't seen it, Amy Adams is in it, who is absolutely fabulous. Isla Fisher is also in that one. Michael Shannon is in it, and it basically, Jake Gyllenhaal is a writer, and he gives his manuscript to Amy Adams, who's his ex-wife, and as she reads it, you kind of see it unfold from the perspective of the book, and it is a mystery horror kind of book that he's writing, and the movie is it's suspenseful. It is just awesome. They do a great job of going back and forth and telling a story that is happening almost identically at the same time. And it's a very well done film. Great actors, great performances in it. So Nocturnal Animals, highly recommended.
all right, thanks, Andrew. Gabe.
Yep.
Okay, well, I recently saw a short film called World of Tomorrow, and I think what?
I've seen it.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. I enjoyed it. It was interesting. Since you've seen it, I'd like to hear your guys' opinions. If any of you end up seeing it, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But I think it plays well into what we're talking about tonight. At least with there, I don't. Are there any rabbits in it, Tom? I don't remember any rabbits.
Not that I remember, Don.
Yeah, no. But there is time travel.
Yep.
And cloning, and those kinds of things. So like basically. A young girl is visited by a future clone of hers to portray some information about the future, and it's in this really kind of interesting, simplistic kind of animation, and the performances are interesting. The little girl is actually played by a little girl. And her clone is played by an actress who has a very interesting delivery, and it brings up a lot of interesting topics about technology and the future and those kinds of things. So, and it only costs you about 15 minutes or so. So it's a quick watch, and there is a sequel to it. It's got a much longer title. Something about the burden of other people's thoughts or something. I can't remember the full title, but it's pretty long. But you can watch both in less than an hour. So if you haven't seen them, check them out and let me know what you think.
All right, thanks, Gabe. Kyle.
All right. I hope I have not recommended this movie before. I can't remember if I have or not, or if someone else has. But it'd be fitting if I did, because it's a time travel movie, and maybe I'm just stuck in a paradox. But it's actually a movie Gabe mentioned tonight. It's called Primer. Not sure if, like I said, not sure if I've recommended this before. But Primer is a little indie film from the early 2000s about time travel. And it is a really complex tale.
Yes.
But very super interesting to watch. I love the premise of the movie. What would happen if you accidentally invented a time machine? And then what are the ramifications of that? And they follow through with that in a really spectacular and satisfying way. And they do not dumb any of it down for the audience. Like, you have to fucking pay attention to this movie or you get lost really, really fast. And I like that. I like that it takes that kind of chance. I like movies that don't dumb things down for the audience. So I definitely recommend it. I can't remember how long it is, but I think it was made on something like under $10,000 was the total budget. And the writer, director, and the one of the lead actors was a former mathematician and engineer. So it's got some really serious kind of science and time travel discussion in it. But I would definitely recommend Primaries. Check it out.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. All right. So I did a deep dive. I went through all the casts. I went through all the directors, or both directors. And I was trying to find some way to link them. How do I put this? All right. There's only been 3 presidents that I've seen on screen, television or film screens, that I would actually want to vote for after seeing them. One is Dennis Haysbert from 24. Second is Bill Pullman from Independence Day, just because of the speech. And third is the female actor I'm going to talk about, who played President Rosalind in Battlestar Galactica, and she was also in Independence Day, but she plays Donnie's mom. And it's Mary McDonnell. And the movie that I'm going to recommend, this is really deep, is Sneakers. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. I love this movie. Still to this day, I love this movie.
A great movie.
It stars Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, David Strathairn, Dan Aykroyd, River Phoenix, and it is fantastic. Sure, there's a lot of stuff that is dated, but the music, it's just... I love the lighting in it for some reason. I just really enjoy this film. So if you don't know what the film's about, it's a security pro finds his past coming back to haunt him when he and his unique team are tasked with retrieving a particularly important item. It's doesn't tell you too much, but it is a really well done movie. And if you haven't seen Sneakers yet, it came out in 92. What's wrong with you? I guess I just watched Harvey for the first time, so might have the same problem I do. But yeah, check out Sneakers if you.
It's one of the only movies that actually showed a real Cray on film, a Cray computer.
Oh,
yeah, there's the geek out for you right
you
there.
So yeah, check out Sneakers. You guys want to find out who won?
Yes.
I don't know.
All right, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Donnie Darko!
Wow.
Surprising.
Yeah, that's further than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
That's just 2. I mean, it's really just 2 votes. So,
Yeah, essentially it is.
assuming Mike's math is right,
it is. It is.
it's above 10. I'm not sure what you counted on.
Amanda came in and helped me.
Oh.
Oh shit, guys! It's 5-5. We got a problem.
There's been times where I've looked down at that paper. I'm like, really? Oh, it's down to me. Oh, it hurts. No, really, this was surprising. So once again, I'll reiterate what Kyle said. Good pick, Tom. This was this was a really good episode. I mean, we discussed things I never thought we would discuss on the show. And it's really helped me enjoy Donnie Darko more, because I know I talked to you guys off mic about how much, I mean, everyone knows how much I dislike Grease, but I also really didn't care. I didn't really care for Donnie Darko. And then after the rewatch, I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. You know, it gave me a better appreciation for it. I don't loathe it. And Harvey was just a gem. I could watch Jimmy Stewart all day long. He's great. He's kind of like, I won't bring up that name. It enrages Gabe. So anyway, where everyone knows what I'm talking about. Where can people find you, watch your work, or maybe discuss their mental illness with you? We'll start with Tom.
Facebook for the time being. I think I'm going to leave Facebook. I'm kind of tired of it. And let's see, Vimeo, I'm on there too. For the next 48 hours, you can find me watching the Star Wars trailer over and over again once it comes out tomorrow, waiting for Game of Thrones to start. And then after that, I'll be off the grid for 6 weeks. So
yeah.
I
I think many of us will be. It'll be like it'll be worse than the Final Four as far as productivity at work. People will not be doing anything but watching Game of Thrones.
Well, you've got Game of Thrones, you got Star Wars Celebration, you got Game of Thrones, and then you've got Avengers Endgame coming up.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a great time to be alive, gentlemen.
It is such a great time to be a nerd. We finally made it. We made it. In 7th grade, when I played Dungeons and Dragons in the library, I never thought we'd make it here. But now it's okay to be a nerd.
Come out of the shadows, nerds.
I know.
Come out of the shadows.
We can smell you already. It's fine. Step out of the shadows. All right, Andrew.
ArizonaInkStudios.com. That's the easiest. It has all of our connections socially and all that jazz. So if you want to find us on like Twitters and Instagrams and such, you can do that. But ArizonaInkStudios.com is the best. And there you can check out all of our shorts that we have out. And one of our bigger mid-length ones, which everyone loves, which is West Side Jedi. So a couple of you guys actually helped out with that that are on the panel. And so, but yeah, take a look, get a feel for us, write some comments, have a good time out there.
Gabe.
Well, I think I'm like Tom. You can currently find me on Facebook, but I almost never get on there anymore. I'm thinking about leaving Facebook as well. And you can also check us out on YouTube or onegenomeshort.com.
All right. And Kyle.
I'm on Facebook. I have currently no plans to leave, just because it's the only way I keep up with all these spicy memes that Mike posts. And I lurk on Instagram a bit, and I'm still debating whether or not I want to register Choke Jerkin as my Twitter handle. I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I'll pull the trigger.
Oh, I hope so.
Tie the loop or whatever.
Twitter will probably ban you. You know that, right?
Oh, come on.
Policies are so strict now. Just so you know.
Porn stars have Twitters. I mean, Choke Jerkin's not any worse than, gaping porn. I mean, come on.
Wow.
I think you can see her kidneys.
Oh.
That's from Clerks.
Yep.
Is that a 2-liter bottle?
Well, I don't know how I'm going to follow that. You can find me on Facebook, where I do post a lot of memes. It's either memes or my kid. And
spicy.
Spicy. You can also find Southsider Studios on YouTube. You can go to southsiderstudios.com, but Gabe is punishing me for liking Denzel Washington.
It's totally true.
It's not up, but this podcast would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmac@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmac. For May, we pin our bars and shout to the heavens as Captain Marvel and Shazam go head to head. For Kyle, Tom, Gabe, Andrew, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Donnie, you're out of your element.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.